Breaking down Arizona Wildcats football, U of A falls to Utah on Senior Day, 38-29. I am David Kelly. The man you are seeing next to me is not Glenn Howell. Glenn Howell was on assignment Sunday night in Las Vegas to see his Raiders for the first time at Allegiant Stadium. I'm joined by David Adams, U of A running back, football class of 1986 out of Sunnyside High School, Tucson native. David, glad to have you for your first appearance here on Wildcat Breakdown. Give me your thoughts on what you saw in that loss to the Utes on Saturday.
Well, David, it's always nice to be on with you. You're one of the few knowledgeable people in sports in Tucson. But my thoughts are basically they are improving. It's not at the speed that everybody wants. Everybody was wanting a 7-4, 8-3 type season, and it's just going to take a little longer than we want. But I'm seeing improvement in all phases of the game, especially defensively. So defense can always keep you in the game. So I'm looking forward to a bright future for the Wildcats.
All right, let's start with one place that I've seen improvement, and particularly in this game on Saturday, and that was the passes to the edge that we see to the wide receivers. And this is something Glenn and I talked about 5-6 weeks ago, how those plays in a lot of instances, David, were going nowhere. But we saw them going somewhere in this game against Utah. And I thought part of it was Will Plummer was getting the ball out quicker to the edge, to the wide receivers, and allowing them more so than some of those passes were either at the line of scrimmage or back. A lot of those passes were forward, so you were guaranteeing yourself to get something, even if you had a defender right on that receiver. So more positive pass plays on the edge than what we had seen, say, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago from this offense.
I agree 100%. I think when you get a positive play, you build confidence. When you call a play, and even though it was executed and you gain 1 yard or less, that doesn't build the confidence you need to be successful on when you call that play. You start questioning the play calling, and therein lies what the problem was in the past. They started not gaining any yards from this particular play, wondering, why do we keep calling this and it's not working? But this game, they really did a lot better job, and it started building a little bit of confidence and showing that you can compete with anybody, and I think that really helped.
All right, David, you obviously played running back at the University of Arizona, so we got to talk about the running backs. And first, I want to get into with you, we've seen Michael Wiley a lot in that Wildcat. Did you ever get a chance to get a Wildcat snap when you were at the U of A?
No, Wildcat wasn't in. We just lined up 7.5 yards deep, and then we pitched it or handed off and made it happen. We didn't have any of that cool, smooth trickery that they got now.
Well, we're going to get into the trickery just a little bit later, but I want to get your thoughts on Stevie Rocker, local running back like you. He's essentially, it seems like, risen to the top of the depth chart here with this Arizona Wildcats offense. Jed Fish in his press conference last week had talked about how the way that it really works is the person that plays the best in the game gets to start the following week. And so he's had 3 starts in a row, which means that he's the guy that's performing the best for this offense. The thing that I always liked about Stevie, even when he was at CDO, was, and I've said this before, he doesn't have Kadeem speed, he doesn't have Bijan speed, but I always said I thought that he would be a good interior runner at this level because he's strong, he's big, and I also think that he's got just enough shiftiness in the hole that he can make that first guy miss on some occasions, and occasionally he's going to turn maybe that 3-yard gain into a 5 or 6 yard gain. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Stevie Rocker and the way he runs the football?
Well, the thing about it is Stevie Rocker is the type of person, well, every back is the type of back that needs to feel that the coach has confidence in him. And just saying whoever plays the best, they're going to be the starter, that's not confidence. Somebody could have a big game and not be as good as the person that's in front of them. I think you need to go more about who is the best in practice. There's where you learn who's who. And Stevie Rocker is a good back. He makes a lot of things happen. And I think that if he had the confidence of the staff, he would produce more. But when it's like, well, I didn't play too well. I had 50 yards and somebody had 60 yards, so I'm not going to start. But you don't need that kind of stuff. You're like, look, I gained 50 yards, and it was not only positive, it was 50 yards that should have been 30. So you got to take that into account, not just going by the numbers and saying, well, this person had more yards, so let's put them in there. You need to know that the coaches believe in you and that no matter what happens, you're going to be a starter unless you get injured. And that's when you start getting the most production out of everybody. And Stevie Rocker has been extremely productive, and I think they need to just make a decision on who they want to start with and go with it.
Well, I think that's a good point there, David. And I want to get as well into the red zone issues that continue to plague this offense. When we talk about they are making improvements, it's the one area that I think that they're still kind of stalled a bit when they get inside that 20-yard line. As a guy that has played at this level, what do you think it takes to score when you get inside that 20? Is it more a mental situation with the players and how they approach, hey, we've got to finish this drive, or is it about the play calling that has to happen from the coaches putting those players in the right positions to be able to finish those drives once you get down inside that red zone?
Oh, I think it's about 80-20. 80 is you just got to understand that it's time. It's time and spirit. It's like when you corner any animal, that's when they say, look, either I make it or I'm going to die. And I think the other 20% is putting the person in the right position, so calling the right plays to make them successful. I don't know if the coaching staff is what they're trying to accomplish and how they feel on who is our best inside runner, our short yardage runner, or passing, who will come down with the ball, because there's been a few drops over the season by players that seemingly never drop passes too often, and I think it's more of burn the boats type of scenario, which is if you want to take the island, burn the boats. That way there's no way out, and you got to believe that in all short yardage and goal line situations or red zone situation. It's just, this is it. It's me against them, and I'm never going to lose.
Yeah, you mentioned drops. Alex Lyons had one. And again, it comes down to guys making plays. You've got to be able to make plays. Be that guy that's going to make that play when you get into that scoring opportunity there down in the red zone. All right, let's flip it over to the defensive side, David. There were a lot of leaks in this ball game for the Arizona Wildcats. Running backs got out and turned screen passes into big gains. Tight ends came open and turned short passes into big gains. What do you see there in terms of how the Wildcats can be better in identifying those types of situations where, I remember one situation in the second half where Don Brown sent 7 guys. You had cover 0, but nobody accounted for the running back. So essentially it was 7 guys rushing, 4 DBs on 4 receivers, but nobody left to cover the running back out of the backfield. In a situation like that, does Don Brown have to say, I got to have somebody that's going to be mindful of that running back coming out? Or is that a situation where maybe they thought, we're sending 7, so they're not going to send that running back out. They're going to keep him in pass protection?
Well, I think one of the things that they're doing is they're trying to send enough people to where you can't block them on. The quarterback doesn't have enough time, but they don't understand. Sometimes when you're hitting the fullback in the flat, that's not a very long pass, and it's very quick. I think what they need to do is establish a mentality of there's absolutely no way that this team is going to gain any yards. We're going to bend, but we won't break. And it comes down to the players wanting to make plays. They have to want to make a big play and go for it. A lot of times there's opportunities, but they don't quite pull the trigger because of maybe they're afraid they'll be taken out. Maybe they're afraid that they may make a mistake and 30,000 people will see it. But it can't be that way. You just got to go for it and figure, if I play as hard as I can, you're never going to be accused of making a mistake.
Well, and you mentioned improvement earlier, and 2 guys that I think I've seen lots of improvement from this season are safety Jackson Turner, who to me is really becoming a force in the run game. Still has some work to do in his pass defense, but in terms of coming into the hole and being a force in the run game, I think we're starting to see that from Jackson Turner. And I also thought Trayden Stukes the walk-on turned scholarships cornerback who's been playing for Isaiah Rutherford, who's still out with some injuries. I thought he played a really good game considering this was the first time he really got challenged a lot. I counted at least 6 times that they targeted him. They weren't going to go after Christian Roland Wallace because Christian Roland Wallace is too good, but they were going after Traden Stukes. He won some, he lost some, but I thought he held his own pretty good. Those are 2 young players that I really think are going to be instrumental pieces on this defense moving forward.
Well, the thing you got to understand about defensive back are the best athletes on the field all the time because they're always at a handicap, meaning they have to do things backwards that everybody else does forward. They have to be mindful of everything they do because they're now you got targeting penalties, you got pass interference penalty. So they're played in a situation to where their hands are almost tied and they still got to compete. So when you have a good defensive back like the 2 gentlemen that you named that are trying to step up to the challenge, you can't beat that. Because I tell you what, Deion Sanders got beat often. But the thing about it is that he won 51% of the time, so that's what made him not go to that direction. But sometimes, you just got to bite the bullet and go for it. I mean, you cannot be afraid of getting beat because it's all out there in the open. If a linebacker misses a tackle, a lot of times you can blame something on a lot of other people, and most of the general population doesn't see it. But if you get beat one-on-one with a receiver, everybody sees it, everybody knows about it. And even if you don't understand football, your mama say, why did that man get behind you and score the touchdown? I don't understand. And you be like, hey, my mom don't even know nothing about football. And she knew I got beat. So those are tough things to handle from a mental standpoint. But I think the defense is getting better every week. And in most cases, they're keeping us in the game for as long as they can until it gets to the point where they're asking, hey, offense, are you going to do anything today? Anything? And that's what gets frustrating for a defense because they're like, okay, it's 14-0 in the fourth quarter. You can't get us a field goal to give us some breathing room, something. And that's what's happening to the U of A. When they start losing by a lot, it's because they just said, man, we're not getting any help, and we might as well play offense and defense and see what happens.
Well, and that goes back to the red zone. You got to score touchdowns. Enough of these field goals. You got to score touchdowns when you get into the red zone is there. But speaking of field goals, Lucas Haversack with a 57-yarder. I mean, that was really impressive on Saturday. He continues to show off his leg, and like we said, he's got the leg to play at the next level. It's just a matter of accuracy, and he's really, since the first 2 weeks of the season, over the course of the last 7 games, has really done a great job of becoming a more accurate kicker, and those 2 kickers working together with him kicking the long ones and Tyler Loop kicking the short ones. And another punt block for the Arizona Wildcats, and they actually turned it into a touchdown. Nazir Bambada, I think Nazir Bambada deserves a press conference. He's blocked 2 kicks. I think we need to have him at this week's press conference. Memo to Adam Gonzalez and Brett Gleason and those guys over there. Let Naz come out and have some love for the fact that he's blocked a couple of kicks. Thomas Reed was also in on that blocked kick as well. And Reddy Short, who it's funny, the guy said, hey, we were on him because the one in the Washington game, he kind of just fell on it. Well, he got the bounce this time. Sometimes you don't have a choice. The ball kind of dictates what you have to do in those situations. But he got the bounce, perfect bounce, and he's able to score. So it was great to see that you had 2 seniors. You had Bambada, who I believe is a redshirt junior, and you had the 2 seniors in Short and Reed, who were both big on that big play for senior day. And those are the kind of plays. You got to have plays like that. If you're not going to get turnovers, you got to have plays like that in order to win. At least give yourself a shot to win games against teams like Utah.
Special teams is a cherry on top of any dessert. If you got a great special teams or a good special teams, that's a cherry on top. And you're like, okay, because sometimes you just need a little something to be appreciative of. I mean, hey, they blocked the punt. We're on the 4-yard line. I'm very appreciative. Let's at least score a touchdown for them because they went out of their way. Because blocking a kick is very difficult. So, you owe it to them when they do something like that to make something happen. And you don't want to be unsuccessful when they block it in the red zone and you come up with nothing. So special teams is very important, and it can be the gateway to opening the game up to make the other team quit.
All right, David, let's finish up on community support. There were 32,000, at least that's the number they gave us, 32,000 on Saturday. I thought there were less people there than there were for homecoming. If there were 25,000 people there on Saturday, then that alone was a lot. It seems like people are just kind of taking a wait-and-see approach to this program right now.
Well, here's the thing. In the history of U of A football, if you're in games and you're winning, you'll be supported. If you're not, then you're not going to be supported, because this is a basketball town until the football team changes that. And I sit up there and I was like, look at all these empty seats. I mean, I don't know what to do to get people to the game besides winning. I mean, maybe they could have a free night or something and let everybody in for free and see what happens, just to see if enough people are interested enough to come out. If it was free, can we fill the stadium? That's what I think. Have a free night and see if they'll support it. Then you know that there is support, so all you got to do is win, and once you win, they'll support it. But I'm telling you, it's tough for the community to support something that was going on with a 20-game losing streak.
David, I know what you can do. You can go march into Dave Hickey's office and see if you can get your COVID year, so we can put you back in uniform for one more.
Well, you know, I thought about that, but then I ran out to the mailbox and pulled a muscle. I said, no, let me just stay here on the sideline.
David, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I think what we really need to do as a community is support them as much as we can until we can't take it anymore. Let's fill the stands and see if the fan support can take them to the next level, 2-3 games. And if it doesn't, then, we can say that we tried. But right now, Tucson cannot say that they've tried to support the football team, because they really haven't. And I cannot 100% put the blame on them, because some of these losses are really, really uncalled for.
Yeah, well, it was good, though, that the guys seemed angry about losing that game on Saturday. That shows you that they were starting to get to a point where they see that, yeah, we played well and we were in it against the best team in the Pac-12 South, but we still didn't win. And because we didn't win, we're not happy. David Adams, U of A football class of 1986. David, I appreciate you taking some time to join us this week.
Well, David, I'm always glad to come on with you. And anybody with a name as cool as mine is a friend of mine.
There you go. There you go. All right. It is. That's the end of the home side of this football season. It's a Friday night game this week up in Pullman, Washington. I'm sure it'll be rainy. I'm sure it'll be cold. And it'll be an interesting one for the Wildcats. That's a Friday night game, which means we'll be back to preview that game for you on Friday morning.